Hello everyone, welcome back to Edubbey Global Solution. Today what we'll be discussing is the concept of globalization, free trade and protection. Now let us go into our slide. Here we have the definition of globalization. Here we have the globalization as the process by which the world is increasingly interconnected through what? Through trade and other links. That is the process of interaction and integration among peoples, companies, and government worldwide, and the government of different nations. Here we have the picture representing the globalization. Now we move to the next slide. Moving to the next slide, we now have what is known as multinational companies. That is the multinational corporation, which is denoted by MNCs. Businesses which have their operations, factories, and assembly plant in more than one country are known as multinational businesses. And the country they are based in is called what? Home country, while the country they operate in are called host country. Here are some example of businesses that have their products in more than one country. Here we have Amazon, we have Total here, we have Honda, we have a lot. Now we move to the next slide. Moving to the next slide, we now move to the role of multinational companies to home country and host country. Here we have to create employment opportunity. Does multinational company, does it create employment opportunity? Of course, it creates employment opportunity when they create a lot of products over different countries. Two, to create love between countries, is that so? Of course, no. To encourage economic growth, of course, it aid and encourage economic growth and development of the home countries. Transfer of skill and expertise to develop the quality of the host labor force. Of course, they transfer skill and expertise to develop the quality of the host labor force to provide infrastructure to individual. Of course, multinational company does not provide infrastructure to individually person. We have the to provide employment and training to labor force in the host country. Of course, it also provides employment and train labor force in the host country. Also, now let us check. Got it right. Let us move to the next slide. Moving to the next slide, here we have past question related to multinational companies. How might a multinational company directly benefit a host country? How do they directly benefit host country, that is the country they operate in? Now it depletes local natural resources, it imports raw materials, it creates local employment, it receives tax concession. Of course, it creates local employment for them in the host countries. Now we move to the next slide. Moving to the next slide, we now have the method of protection. First play, what do we know as protection? What do we mean by protection? Of course, protection involves the use of trade barriers like government to restrict international market access and competition. Trade barrier includes what? Here we have our options here that we are going to draft into these boxes. And indirect taxes on imported goods that makes them more expensive is known as what? Is known as tariffs. Is known as tariffs. Now, a transfer of money from the government to an entity that leads to a fall in price of product is known as subsidies. Transfer of money from the government to an entity, that is maybe to a firm, that leads to a fall in price of product is known as subsidy. That is, it allows subsidy to domestic producers so that they can increase their output and reduce the cost. Now here we have a limit on the number of imports allowed into a country in a given period. That trade barrier is referred to a quotas. Now the first one, we have a complete ban on import of a goods to a country. That is a completely ban on import of a goods to a country is known as embargo. That one is known as embargo, and a limit on the amount of foreign currency that can be obtained is known as exchange control. Those are the trade barriers by government to restrict international market access and competition. Now we move to the next slide. Moving to the next slide, we now have the reasons for protection. Why do government protect, and why do they introduce the trade barrier when protecting most country? Now here, to create employment opportunity. Does that mean the reason for protection is to create employment opportunity? Of course, no. To protect decline industry, of course, is to protect decline industry so that they can grow. Now, to reduce the population growth. Of course, protection is not meant to reduce population growth of a country. To protect domestic firms from dumping. Of course, dumping is a kind of right that occurs when imports are sold at a price below the price chart in the home market. So it protects domestic firm from dumping. It also protects infant industry, that is, trade barrier will help protect infant industry, that is, those that are new and are open to grow. They use this to protect infant industry. Now we have to correct a trade imbalance. To correct trade imbalance, cost protection can reduce the imports coming into a country by using what? By using embargo, or what? By using embargo. So it is used to correct trade imbalance. Also, let us check. Got it right. Now we move to the next slide. Moving to the next slide, we now have the consequences of protection. We have the effect of production also. First one, they restrict consumer choice. Of course, they will restrict consumer choice. They also restrict new revenue and employ opportunity, and they also protect inefficient domestic firm. Of course, when trade barriers are used to protect domestic industry, it might include inefficient industry and retaliation from other countries will also be a consequence of protection. Moving to the next slide, we have two perspectives here related to the trade barriers used by government. Which method of trade protection will enable domestic firms to lower their prices and undercut the price of imported goods? Of course, we've discussed this. What should be our answer? Here we have a subsidy, an embargo, a tariff, and import quota. Of course, is a subsidy. Now the second question here we have, what is the most likely benefit for a low income economy if it remove tariff, that is an indirect taxes on imported goods and services? Now let us check out our options. More employment in decline industry, more choice for domestic consumer, more taxes revenue from import, more export by domestic firm. Of course, it is the more choice for domestic consumer. That is the benefit for low income country. Now we move to the next slide. Moving to the next slide, we now have the concept of what? Now have the concept of free trade. What do we mean by free trade, and what do we mean by international trade? International trade refers to what? To the exchange of trade of goods and services between different nations. That is the concept of the import and export in an economy. Here we now have the free international trade. which occur when there are no restrictions on the products bought by firm or products sold by firm to other country. That is, there are no restrictions, that is, there are no trade barrier in between the products bought and sold by firms to other countries. Now we move to the next slide. We also have two past questions here. What is a quota in an international trade? Of course, we have defined what quota is in our earlier slide. What do you understand by quota? Now, of course, a quota is a limit on the number of imports allowed into a country in a given period. So now let us check our options here. The tax in imports, a government grant to encourage production, an administrative and technical barrier, a limit on the quantity of import. Of course, our answer is a limit on the quantity of import. Now the second question says, which protectionist measure will be most suitable for a government to use to support the growth of export of an industry? What is the most suitable measure to use to support the growth of an export of an industry? Here we have the subsidy, we have embargo, we have tariff and quota. Of course, the answer here is subsidy. That is the most suitable measure to use to support domestic firm. Now we move to the next slide. We now have the benefit of free trade. What are the benefits of free trade? Of course, it increases consumer what? It increases consumer choice. To increase consumer choice, of course, consumer can enjoy a variety of products from around the globe. It creates new business opportunities. Of course, free trade also allows business to produce and sell goods for overseas consumer. Now, it also increase competition and what? And efficiency. It means that there will be more competition among firms in different countries, and it also allows countries to benefit from specialization. Of course, if there is no international trade, the country will not be able to specialize. That is, they will not have to become self-sufficient. It enables firms and economies to benefit from the best workforce, resources, and technology from around the world. Now we move to the next slide. Moving to the next slide, we have first question here. The government removed the quota, that is a limit on an import on goods imported into a country. What is the likely result of this? A decrease in exports, a decrease in demand for domestic production, a decrease in the balance of trade deficits, a decrease in domestic unemployment. When government remove a quota on goods imported into a good, of course, it will decrease the demand for domestic production. Now we move to the next slide. We also have past question here related to what? Multinational companies. The government of low-income countries often allow foreign multinational companies to mine mineral in their country. Which country between benefit and cost might this cost? The low-income countries. We have the benefit to what? The benefit to the country and the cost to the foreign multinational companies. Here we have higher employment and loss of refined resources, more sustainable development and economic growth, improved balance of payments, improved balance of trade and trading by the multinational companies, increased profits for the multinational companies and efficient production. Of course, the benefit is higher employment and the cost is loss of refined resources. We move to the next slide. We also have past question here. Which method of protection always reduce the supply of an imported goods to zero? That is a completely ban of imported goods. That should be what? Embargo. We have discussed this earlier. This should be the end of the class on globalization, free trade, and protection. Stay tuned to our website www.edubbey.com. See you in the next class.